Hey everybody, welcome to JSTern Designs. For this week's episode of JSDTV, I'm going to show you how to taper a jean leg. And this can work really for jeans you've made and you want to change the style of them, or it could also work for ready to wear in your closet. I had the chance to meet with Dylan again and explain to him what stacks were and how to create them after I watched all those videos. If you missed last week's episode of JSD TV, I'll put a link to it in the blog post that goes along with this video. Also, you'll have a chance to meet Dylan because when he came in, he did a little sort of meet and greet for you, explaining how I ended up with these Dior jeans. Then I'm going to show you how to pin the leg and get it ready to take in. And after you see that, I'm going to show you how to actually take apart these jeans and taper the leg. So let's meet Dylan.
Hi, I'm Dylan. I purchased a pair of Dior Home denim that I figured Jen could alter for me. I've had an interest in fashion since a young age, and I noticed that this pair of denim didn't stack correctly around the knee area, so I asked her if she could make the changes for me.
Dylan has kindly put his jeans on inside out, and you can see that the stacking that I talked about earlier is starting to occur naturally in these jeans, the way they're shaped. So to make these pleats a little bit more pronounced, what we're going to do is we're going to take in the side seams. So basically we're going to leave everything from the knee up as is, and we're going to start probably right at the knee, and I'm just going to pin in that little bit that we need to make this really snug so that these pleats or stacks become more pronounced. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, so I'm going to start with this leg, and his knee is right here, so what we're going to do is we're just going to stick a pin in right on the seam, and I'm going to gradually go in. I'm testing how much I can take in at the actual fullest part of his knee, calf. So I think I can get about a ½ an inch away from the seam. So I'm basically going to pin out a ½ an inch from the middle of his calf up, and then I'll work towards the hem. So once I get past the calf, I'm going to stop pinning, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go from where I took it in just below the calf down in a straight line to where I'm going to take it in at the hem, and I'll show you that a little bit later. All right, so does that feel good around your calf though?
Yes.
All right, good. All right, so now I'm just going to ask Dylan to turn around so I can do the other leg. That way I don't have to get up. So turn so that this leg is facing over here and that leg is perfect. All right, so I'm going to just pin this leg at the knee and then at the calf, and then fill it in between the knee and calf. All right. Does that feel good at the calf?
Yes.
All right. All right. All right. All right. So I think that's good. Does that feel good? All right. All right, so turn it around so your square front again. All right, you can see that I've pinned in the amount I'm going to take in along the side seam. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to cut apart these $700 Dior jeans and put them back together without causing any trauma to Dylan. All right. So now let's look at what I pinned. So the top pin that I have right here, sort of on a horizontal, that's where the knee is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically start here with 0, and I'm going to blend out, so I'm taking out a ½ an inch here. And then this red pin is, and here is the area of where his calf is. And this is where I have to be careful. I can't really make it much tighter than this, taking it in this ½ inch, otherwise it'll be really, really snug on his calf, and I don't want it to be uncomfortable. So I'm going to start up here right above the knee. I'm going to blend to a 1/2 inch. And then when I get to this red pin, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark at the hem So I'm going to measure that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a straight line from the hem to this pin where I stopped measuring the 1/2 inch where his calf is. So I'm going to take in a significant amount here, and I'm going to blend a straight line, and then I'm just going to take a 1/2 inch in here, and then we're going to go to 0 over here. All right, so the first thing I want to do to make it really easy is I want to take apart the hem, and I'm not going to take apart the whole hem. I'm just going to take apart probably 2 inches on either side of the side seam, because that way I'll only have to top stitch that much of it back up again. I don't want to take off the whole hem. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my seam ripper, and I'm going to start over here, and I'm just going to sort of pick at these to get a starting point. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stick in the red ball side of my seam ripper, and I'm just going to slide it along like this. All right, and you can see that it's cutting the threads, but it's not cutting the denim. So I'm using the red ball that's protecting that part of the sharp, and I'm just sliding it along like this. Straight across, like this. And when I get a couple inches away, I'm going to stop. And so see, now that'll allow me to get in there and see what I'm doing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the side seam apart, and I'm going to take it from, I'm going to take it all the way out to here. So basically, I'm going to use my seam ripper the same way. I'm just going to use the red ball on the inside where I can't see, and I'm just going to slide it straight up. See how quick that is? Yep, I'm doing these to $700 Dior jeans fearlessly. Okay, so now I've got my seam out, and I think just to make everything nice and easy to work with, I'm going to press these seam allowances flat. So I'm going to get my iron. All right, if any of you are wondering, I had reviewed the Shark iron several months ago now, quite a few months ago now, and it still works great. So my update is I still like my Shark iron. It still makes lots of steam. All right, let me just, I'm going to make a guide, and I'm just going to use my little Sharpie marker. Actually, I'm just going to very gently draw where my 1/2 inch is. I just drew that right there, just so I don't lose it. I'm going to take out the pins so I can press. And I'm just going to make a dot where I'm starting over here. Okay. Yep, I'm using Sharpie marker on these Dior jeans. All right. I don't know why I don't feel nervous. All right, let's see. So I'm just going to get everything pressed nice and flat. I'm going to measure this hem, and I'm going to measure it so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a 1/4 inch away. And that's going to put me right here. So I'm going to use my Sharpie marker, and I'm going to make a dot. That's where I'm going to stitch. And now that I have one permanent guide, I'm going to start using chalk so I don't go crazy with the Sharpie marker. But essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a line like this through my guide. Okay, see that? And I'm going to make a straight line from there to here. Okay, then I'm going to connect my line up to where I want it to be blending back into the original side seam. All right, so now I've got it blended right in and it's nice and straight. So see, I've got my line from there. I'm gonna sew along this line here. And I think what I'm also gonna do, this is not a traditional way to create a taper so much, but I know he wants it snug above his shoe, and I know that this could even be tighter. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna measure in about a 1/2 inch here. I'm gonna use a different color so you can see. I'll use my, let's see if I can see my blue. Yeah. So I'm gonna very carefully blend it back to 0 where I need it to be straight for the hem down here. And see how I'm just gonna take that in a little bit more even. And then I'm gonna blend back to my straight line up by the calf. Maybe what I'll do is I'll even just take off a little bit more. Let me just get it. Kind of so it looks like that. All right, so I'm taking off even a little bit more down here. All right, so this will be nice and snug for him. And then back to where I marked for my calf here. And then let me just make it straight again. All right. All right, so that's my stitching line. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna examine the finished edge of these jeans. And if you look really close, you can see that that's a 3-thread serged edge. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna mark a 1/2 inch away from this blue line, and I'm gonna cut off the extra. Then I'm going to finish those edges with a 3-thread stitch on my serger to sort of match this up. And I think it'll be easier for me to cut, finish the edge, and then sew it back together. So my next step is I'm going to first, just so I don't have to mark both sides of my leg, I'm gonna pin this together along the edges. All right, so it's not gonna slip. So see what I'm doing is I'm just making sure everything is lined up. I'm just gonna pin it together like this. So I know that I'm taking off a like amount on both the front and back of the leg when I trim it. Okay, so the important thing is see how I'm getting these really matched up nicely, and they're pinned together. Okay. Now I know they're not going to slip. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my ruler and I'm just going to mark a 1/2 inch cutting line, and I'll make those dashes. All right, and as I get up to the top, you'll see I'm getting really close to my original edge. And you can see at some point over here, see how I'm like, oops, see up at the top? I'm like right there now. So I am now going to use a rotary cutter and a ruler to chop this off. So I'm just going to line that up. Okay, so I'm just cutting off a little bit at a time. See? All right, and see up at the very top, it's just going to gradually go right off the edge like that. All right, now I'm going to get the serger out and I'm going to serge these edges separately. think having the serger thread match, you can see from where I started and stopped, I think that makes it look nice. And after he wears them a few times and washes them, the new edge will fray a little bit and it'll look virtually identical. So I think I've cut apart and finished these Dior jeans in a way where they're not going to be traumatized. In addition to making sure all the edges match, you want to make sure that the where you hemmed it, all the folds of the hem match, so everything looks like it goes back together perfectly. See how I've got, this was where the stitching was, this dark part. I'm going to make sure those are lined up. Okay, and if the very, very bottom is slightly off, I don't care, because what I want to make obviously matching is the parts that you can see. So I'm just going to pin it like this, and then I'm going to check. Okay, see how that matches? All right, so that's the important part down at the hem. So you want to make sure any of the distressed details match. So I'm just going to pin that like that, and then I'm just going to pin up the leg, and then I'm going to sew it together. All right, so I'm going to start stitching up at the where the original hem, where the original side seam is, and I'm going to overlap the stop point. I mean, this, you know, I'm going to overlap where the original seam ends and where I'm going to start mine. So I'm overlapping about 1/2 inch, and I'm just setting my straight stitch for about 3, and I'm going to back tack. And then I'm just gonna stitch down at 1/2 inch. All right. And at the bottom, I'm just gonna back tack again. Before I put the hem back together, I just want to press this seam allowance open so it'll look just like it did before I took it apart. I'm going to use my trusty sleeve board for that. It'll make it really easy. I'm just going to slide my pant leg on. All right, and then I'm just going to press it, you know, starting from where it's still pressed open. Like that. And I'm just going to work all the way down to the hem. Look how lovely and professional that looks. Okay, so to finish the hem, what I'm going to do is, the first thing is, I'm just going to trim off this little extra threads I have hanging. Okay. And then I'm just going to fold it back into its original position. Like so. All right, and then I'm going to give it some really good steam, and then I'm going to use my clapper to press a really nice crease into the hem. So I'm going to trap all that heat in there, and the wood will absorb it and make a really crisp, nice fold along the hem. I'm just going to hold it for about 20 seconds. All right, let's take it off and look at it now. Here's what it looks like from the wrong side. And there's what it looks like from the right side. It almost matches up perfectly. All right, so I'm going to stick some pins in there. I'm going to pin like this because I'm going to stitch from the right side. All right, to finish this project, I am threading my machine with a YLI jean stitch thread that matches the top stitching on the hem. This color is called Topaz, and it's really probably the most popular color for ready-to-wear. So I'm just going to thread my machine. I'm not putting this heavy thread in my bobbin because my machine won't like it. So basically I'm keeping the light blue that I used to sew the side seam back together in the bobbin, and I'm just trading this heavier thread in my needle, which I'm using a size 16 top stitch needle. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to lengthen my stitch to 4 because the stitching on here is not very long, so I kind of want to match what's already on here. And I'm going to start stitching, and I'm just going to overlap the original stitching just a couple stitches, and then I'm going to back tack just a couple stitches. And then we're just going to stitch along, and I'm going to take the pins out as I get to them. Okay, when you get to the seam, the side seam, if it's too heavy, if you feel like your machine is struggling, another good idea is just to hand walk it. So I'm just going to hand walk it over the hump, and then I'm just going to finish the hem. And when I get to where the original top stitching started again, I'm just going to overlap a couple stitches and then back tack a couple stitches. And that's it. All right, let's see how that looks. All right, so that's how you pin to measure, trim off the extra, and finish the hem back into its original position. So now when Dylan puts these jeans on, what's going to happen is they'll cling to his calf essentially. That's going to be really snug around his calf. So he'll be able to pull up all of those, make little pleats, and it'll look really nice and stacked on his leg. So he's going to be super excited. When he comes back to try them on, I will take a picture and I'll share that with you. But I just wanted to get in how to do it before, you know, too much time goes by. So that's my technique for today. I do want to mention that I started a contest Monday that is a chance to win a free Ponte Knit jean pattern. And of course, you know, I don't know if any of you know the whole amount of everything that I do, but basically I try to run my whole J Stern Designs essentially by myself. So I shoot these videos by myself, I edit by myself, I create patterns, I send out for grading usually because I want it to be accurate, but you know, then I produce the whole rest of the pattern myself, and it's a lot of work. So which I love, by the way, I'm not complaining, but the next thing is I wanted to have a contest. And of course, to have a contest on Facebook, you need to have a third-party app. So I spent half a day researching and looking and trying to figure it out for myself. And I'll be honest, it really isn't set up exactly the way I was hoping for. Basically, you can find the contest on my Facebook page. I'll put a link to it with this post. On my blog at JStern Designs. I'll probably also put it on there if I can. I have to see if I can, because they have very specific rules on how you can share things or where you can put them. But the bottom line is, to enter, all you have to do is fill in your contact information and you're entered. And the winner will be the person who gets the most people to use the link that they get from entering to sign up themselves. So that's how I will the software will pick out a winner for me, but the whole spirit of this is to grow my J Stern Design Fitting and Pattern Perfection group so we can really have a lively group to share, you know, things that we're making, ask fitting questions, and really sort of create a community of people who are interested in sewing, fitting, construction, design, and so on and so forth. So if you, you know, check that out. I encourage you to join because I'm going to be offering sales and free and discounts to my members in that group. So I'll put a link to the group. I'll put a link to the contest. Someone will win a free Ponte Knit jean pattern and workbook, which, by the way, I'm launching on the weekend. So on Sunday, the Ponte Knit jeans will be available. So this is super exciting for me this week. But in any case, I just wanted to apologize for not having the contest be exactly what I was hoping for, but I'll get there. You know, I'll figure it out. So I hope you guys have a great day. For Quick Tip Thursday, I'm going to show you how to put new buttons on a coat or if one of them falls off. And basically this is going to be another Dylan project. I just took pity on him and I'm going to help him fix a few things. So I'm going to show you what happens when you lose your button, you don't have the replacement button, and you didn't find enough buttons to completely change them all. So that's what I'm doing on Thursday. So have a great day, and I'll see you for Quick Tip Thursday.